Good morning, everyone. I am the principal of Youngstown Early College High School. I was born and raised in Youngstown. I am a product of the Youngstown City Schools. I choose to be in Youngstown City. This is where there's a saying that says, can anything good come out of Youngstown? And my answer is a resounding yes. As a leader, it is our job to make sure that we have the tools necessary to remove barriers so that people can see just what is on the inside of our children. And as a leader, Principal Smith alluded to, you have to have certain conversations with the people around you so that they understand that kids come first. And a lot of times those are very uncomfortable conversations, but they have to happen because at the end of the day, they are on our watch. It's life-saving work. We are saving lives every single day. And so I heard a consultant from ICLE, his name is Dr. Strike. He said that culture will trump strategy every day. And so before you can talk about high expectation, you have to talk about culture. What does that culture lend itself? What is the language? What is the heartbeat? And so it is so extremely important that when my students and the staff enter the building, that they could hear the voice of that building. So when you walk in, there are affirming messages and words throughout the entire building so that people, when they walk in, if they're having a bad day, because our kids come from a lot of things, and so do staff members. So when they come in, they know that they're being loved and they're being supported. I hear high expectations toted all the time, but what they fail to realize is that there is a level of accountability that is on the leader as well as each other. And so you have to hold people accountable for the way that they treat one another, what they expect from one another. And on my watch, I have made the decision that I will continue to have those conversations because we have to move students' lives forward. We have to give them tools to move them forward. And so it is an honor to be in this position to lead a school like Youngstown Early College High School. It is not a job for me, but it is a part of my assignment to accelerate the lives of young people. And so I get the privilege of doing that every day with a team of people who believe what I believe about kids. And I'm a barrier remover. So you have to share that DNA with me so that we can make the greatest impact that we can. So I'll get into the report card. I can start at achievement. So, as you can tell, according to our data, we've made some adjustments over time. Principal Smith alluded to the change that happened year 2014-15, when there was a shift in the assessments. Like Principal Smith, we excelled greatly with the OGT, but as we know, that is a basic skills test. And so when they transitioned with the assessment, we felt the push. And so at our school, we had to deal with the mentality of isolation. You know how that is when people feel like they've performed at a certain level for so long that they don't have to pay attention or answer to anything. And so it was a difficult situation. We had to mine through this mentality of, well, why? We've done it this way and we've gotten the results for so long because of this way. Why do we have to change? And so that was a huge shift. Actually, that was my first year of becoming a principal at Youngstown Early College. At that point, I was on the college side, which means I was responsible for building interventions and that liaison between YSU and Youngstown City. And so I was in that position for about 6 years before I transitioned into the principalship. So I used a analogy or allegory called our iceberg is melting. To get the staff to understand there are fissures in our iceberg that we have to address. And so we had to address culture, we had to address instruction, we had to address the environment. And that was just a way to try to transition people to get ready, because this transition is not going away. And so, as you can tell, we had to make different shifts in instruction. We started to focus more on depth of knowledge and rigor in the classroom. We had to make that shift. We started including inclusive practices for flexible grouping, small group. We had to put those particular strategies in place, data teams. We had to start being more intentional about coming together. So we had to build those professional learning communities where we were having those conversations about data. So as you can tell with this particular data, we're moving our kids up. As you can see, we have a high percentage of kids in basic. And so we have to focus on how to improve those kids. So we're having those conversations. We're not only looking at achievement data, we're looking at growth data, we're looking at NWEA. So when we know where those kids are, we put them in their need categories. And then in those teams, we talk about what interventions we need to put in place. They test those interventions, they come back to the table. If those are not working, then we have to strategize about other strategies. And so we're pushing those kids up. So we kind of live and die by that performance index. And we've improved over time. In 15-16, we were at a 67.7%, and now we are at a 70. So we are moving in the right direction. We will not settle for less. So we still have to continue to push forward. For high school, again, we have made great strides. Just in 2016, we were like 42.2% in Algebra 1. And so this year, we had the highest score we had, and we're now at an 80.7. And so our teachers understand it is a sense of urgency that we have to work together. We have to make kids accountable. We have to be accountable. And so they're working steadily in these areas. We also use a lot of intervention structures. In my building, we have a very strong support structure, and that means we have supports from Tier 1 to Tier 3 from grades 9 through 12. So for example, Principal Smith alluded that they have an intensive week for incoming freshmen. We have a 3-week summer bridge program where we work with our incoming freshmen intensely for 3 weeks so that they can get acclimated to the rigorous process. We do science, STEM, STEM-related fields. We jump right into Algebra 1. We jump right into those content areas. We have college success courses to help them transition, because it's almost like going from middle school to college, because as soon as they get there, they have to quickly make those adjustments. American government, we're at 86.7%. We have grown. We went from 45% to a 77.3%. ELA 1, that is the first time in 3 years that we exceeded the benchmark. We were excited about that. Again, I do have my strongest teachers in the 9th grade, because that is a huge transition. And for our ninth graders take freshman and sophomore English in 1 year. So I have to have those highly qualified expertise content area specialists, as I call them, to make sure that we're doing what we need to do instructionally. That's why you see a dip in ELA 2, because our kids, our freshmen, are taking both of those Englishes in 1 year. And so we saw a little dip, even though our growth, as you will see in the value added, we did grow, but we did take that dip. So we're still looking at that data. We're still trying to pull back the strategies necessary. Again, the district has a literacy focus this year. Early College has implemented a focus on literacy across the content for the last 2 years. We have taken on a strategy called annotation, because that's a skill that can be used across content areas, whether it's English, whether it's science, whether it's social studies. and we're also implementing vocabulary across those areas. We were able to get the EOC improvement indicator, and geometry, as already alluded to, is very difficult for us. And also included in those scores are our students who had to retake those tests, and so where my math team actually was able to score 75% because we had some seniors who had to retake it and didn't pass, that impacted our score. Can you go to the next component, please? Yes.